Hello and welcome to Vox Markets. I am John Human and I'm delighted to be joined today by Tom Ilube and Stuart Jubb, who are respectively the Chief Exec and Group Managing Director of Crossword Cyber. Welcome to Vox.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Hi, John.
Hi, good to have you on. So you're new to Vox. It's great to have you here. I think perhaps the best place to start, for the benefit of our viewers, is if you could both introduce yourselves and give us a quick overview of Crossword. Tom, perhaps start with you.
Yeah, I'm Tom Ilube. I've been in the technology business for 30 plus years. I'm Chief Executive and founder of Crossword. Crossword is a cybersecurity company with a range of products and services that we offer to medium to large corporate clients and some government clients. We're growing very nicely, heading to profitability, and a good team, 60 plus people in the UK. Things are going really well.
And Stuart, give us a bit of your background.
Yeah, hi, John. Yeah, so Stuart Jubb, Group Managing Director. So I've been with Crossword more or less since the beginning, joined in 2016, grew the consulting team. I now run sales, product, and a monitoring business. Before Crossword, I was at KPMG for 4 years, so working as a consultant and COO of a global business. And then I served in the military for 9 years, so multiple tours of Iraq and Afghanistan and NATO.
Yeah, so huge amounts of experience that you bring to the group here in what is a rapidly growing market. I mean, we often hear about cyber attacks and such like, and that you're obviously doing a fantastic job of helping companies deal with that. And that's shown up in your latest results, which you released today, which show some very, very strong growth. Perhaps Tom, you could talk us through the financial highlights.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've reported that we grew by 15%, revenue by 15% to 4.2 million. Last year, and that was in a year where in the second half of the year the economy was in recession, but we were still growing, cybersecurity was still growing. So it shows you what's going on in this market. And within that growth, product revenue grew by 77%. As a proportion of overall revenue, our product revenue has grown from 14% to 21% between 22 and 23. And that's really important as we head towards profitability. Our annual recurring revenue year end was 2.5 million, which is great. And overall, our recurring revenue was 65% of our overall revenue. So we are a recurring revenue business with a mix of products and services where the product revenue and the recurring revenue are both growing. One of the things I was really pleased about is that revenue per client grew by 9%. What that tells you is that we are managing to cross-sell across our client base. So the strategy of being a company with more than one product and service that we can deliver multiple products and services to the same client really is working. We have about 100 clients that we're working with and billing and invoicing at any given time. So we have a really strong base of clients. And one of the things you'll see us doing is cross-selling more and more into that client base.
Yeah, absolutely. That was something you referred to in the statement itself, actually, that you'd cross-sold to a FTSE 250 client. Stuart, perhaps you could sort of give us a bit of a feel for how that process worked.
Yeah, so as Tom mentioned, we've got over 100 clients. We're billing about that at any one time. And we acquired a company called Threat Status in 2022. So we're working with a number of clients and we see some of the software products they wanted. We knew that they wanted some threat intelligence tooling. So we bought Threat Status and we've managed to implement Trillion into the FTSE 250 company that you mentioned. And we're now going across our consulting client base and cross-selling as well. And what's quite interesting is we released the Harvester module earlier this year. So that's a first of its kind module. It allows analysts to look into the dark web and look for intelligence about companies. And because that's quite unique, we're able to then take that additional module to our existing clients and of course generate new pipeline with that new module.
Yeah, indeed.
It's really interesting that in this market, in this cybersecurity market, customer relationships, client relationships are as important actually as the product and service that you have. So someone comes along with a whizzy new product to a client that they haven't worked with before. The client isn't necessarily going to go for it, but when they've got a long-term relationship with folk like ourselves and we come up with something new and we knock on the door and say, hey, now we've got something new to show you, they're always receptive to having a look at it. And you know that even if they're not buying it on day one, they appreciate the fact that we're an innovative company that's always coming forwards with new things for them to look at.
Yeah, indeed. So that consulting history has given you a very strong foundation for selling these innovative new products into that base. Perhaps let's talk about product development. You've mentioned Harvester, but I guess there's a lot more going on than that on the product development side, which is going to give you further opportunities to cross-sell.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stuart will talk about some of those. In particular, we're doing some work in the impact of AI in cybersecurity. And that is a really, really interesting area, which I think is going to be really significant over the next few years. But Stuart can talk about some of the things we've been doing there and with our other products, Nightingale and so forth.
Yeah, so you've launched a cyber AI practice. And I guess that AI, it's obviously the hot topic of the moment in cybersecurity. It brings both increased threats, but also increased ability to perhaps deal with some of those threats. Stuart, perhaps you could talk me through what you're doing on the AI side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you say, John, it's a hot topic. It's being talked about a lot. It's something that we've spent a lot of time. So our heritage is we worked with universities. We know what's been going on in university research, and we're able to bring that into our products. So we've got a deep history in innovation and in specifically AI. A number of the CISOs we've spoken to have said that the implementation of generative AI and LLMs is the biggest digital transformation that they've seen over the past 20 years. And because a lot of companies are so excited about the benefits, they're not really thinking about the security implications. So what we're doing is helping companies think through those security implications. We ran a series of forums last year. So we got some CISOs from top companies, FTSE 100, big defense companies, into a series of forums. We ran them at Oxford University, the Alan Turing Institute, and we helped them think through actually how do you incorporate these new technologies. So that formed the launch of the new practice, and that's going well. And we're seeing that we're having a lot of good conversations, which are leading to opportunities with companies. But also we're looking at how we improve our own products and services using generative AI, so that we really practice what we preach. We're not just talking about it. So we think we've got a really deep expertise now in these areas.
Yeah, indeed. And obviously this is the big development in the market. Perhaps we could talk about sort of some of the trends you're seeing in the market and what you see the overall opportunity is. I mean, we live in a connected world. What one can only imagine, it's absolutely vast.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I see is that every major company, every single one, and government as well, is going to need to think about how they transform themselves by leveraging generative AI and that set of tools, because they are really, really transformational. It's not just a slight increment. It's something fundamentally different. It won't happen overnight, but over the next 2-3 years, every single company will be looking at that. That means that every single company will need to think about what are the security implications of doing this. And on the other side, the attackers are also leveraging these same tools and techniques. So the attackers are getting smarter and smarter. And in order to defend yourself, you need to use those tools as well. It really is a genuine arms race in this area. And the pace of it is staggering if you see the changes that are taking place. So what you're seeing at the moment is a lot of conversation about, generative AI can do this, ChatGPT can do that, LLMs can do the other. Everyone's piling into it, as Stuart said. You're seeing fewer conversations about how you protect yourself in that world. And this isn't about going slower. Sometimes people think, here come the cybersecurity guys telling us that we can't do this, we can't do that. It's not about that. I think the way to think about it is sort of like brakes on a Formula One car. If you have better brakes than the next guy, it actually means you can go faster. You can take those corners faster. You can be more daring because you know that the controls you've got will allow you to cope moving at that speed. That's what we're talking about. If companies get their mind round how to use AI in safe ways, how to protect themselves, they'll actually be able to innovate faster rather than piling into it and finding themselves in a complete mess.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And obviously, what you're building, obviously very relevant to the UK, where obviously a lot of your business comes from, but international expansion is really starting to happen at pace as well. With the Caribbean, interestingly being a particular area of focus. Perhaps Stuart, you could talk us what you're doing in the Caribbean. I understand it's with a partner, so collaborative approach there as well. And why the Caribbean? What's the opportunity specifically there?
Yeah, so we've taken a tactical approach to international expansion. So we've got our business in Oman, and the Caribbean came about by conversations which started to develop into good opportunities, and hence the signing of the partnership. And what we're seeing in the Caribbean is they're probably a few years behind the UK. So companies haven't really invested in cybersecurity yet, and a lot of big companies aren't focused on there. So cybersecurity vendors aren't focused on there. So our partners over there are reselling our Nightingale software, so our monitoring software that provides early warning of attacks. We're working with one of the big telecoms providers out there. We've just been onboarded on part of one of the big conglomerates out there, and these are multi-year, six-figure deals. And what we'll find is we will probably be able to then sell additional products and services. So we're not investing a lot of money, burning through a lot of cash to look at international expansion. But what we're now thinking about is how can we replicate the success in the Caribbean in other markets, so other English-speaking markets. And to a certain extent, TD the partnership we released earlier in the year, that will help with that. So we can look at some of the other markets that they sell into as well.
Yeah, and you preempted my next question, which is presumably this low capital intensity model, this partnership model, does give you the scope to explore other regions internationally.
Yeah, absolutely. So we think that at some stage the Caribbean will be big enough that we will have to put some people on the ground, but we'll do that sensibly, so that we know that we're not going to lose money doing it. We're having conversations with companies in Australia, South Africa, some other European countries, and we're looking, as you said, we're looking for that partnership model so that it's low capital. Of course, if we have a client that has businesses in other countries and we need to put people on the ground, that might be another way to expand. So we're remaining relatively agile.
Yeah, sounds very.
We're really excited about the TD SYNNEX deal as well. I mean, people, outside the industry don't often know what that organization is and does, but globally, it's got 22,000 people, 60 billion turnover. It's one of the, if not the biggest reseller of IT solutions, and they're selling our solution in the UK market. Even to get onboarded with an organization like that, you can imagine how many people are knocking on the door saying, please sell our product as well. The fact that they've taken us on board as a partner is really important. And as that sort of flywheel really starts to get going, and we're starting to see sales come through that relationship over the next few years, that's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like a fantastic partnership and a very prudent way to expand. Talking of prudence, let's talk about the year ahead, because one of the things I know you've been focusing on is that path to profitability and cost management. Perhaps Tom, you could talk us through what you're doing on that front. How you're managing the business to deliver that profitability, which I think you expect in the second half.
Yes, yeah. So we are laser focused on getting to profitability on a monthly basis in the second half of 2024. By the time we get to the end of 2024, we want to be EBITDA positive on a monthly basis, and we will focus a lot of effort on that. And that's a combination of driving up revenue, which we're doing, but being cautious about it, not overestimating, just knowing what rate we can drive revenue up at, and tight cost management and cost reduction where that's appropriate. And we've seen that coming through. So, for example, our overheads, our administrative expenses are down 10% between 2022 and 2023. We've taken nearly $500,000 per annum cost out of our admin expenses over the years. Overall, if we look at it over a few years, our admin expenses as a proportion of revenue will be 50% down on what they were just a couple of years ago. We're looking across the business to see where we can tighten up, to see where we can optimize what we're doing in order to make sure that we get to that break-even stage. And that's, we're very open as a company internally. We talk about that. We've talked about the fact that the early stages was about growing the top line, just getting that momentum, getting some critical mass in certain areas. And last year and this year is about that drive for profitability, so that we go into 2025 as a company that's profitable, that's got to a decent scale, really good set of customers in the UK and internationally, and we can push on from there. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, indeed. And Stuart, I mean, obviously, and Tom's alluded to it. It's not just about managing the costs; it's about pushing the sales as well. And you talk in the statement about the strength of your pipeline. Stuart, perhaps give us a feel for what that pipeline looks like.
Yeah, so we've got our 10 key accounts. So those are FTSE 100, FTSE 250 companies that we think could become £1 million accounts over the next 3 years. So we manage those with account managers. We have a sales team, so they are generating leads. So they're on the phone all day, and they have targets to book number of meetings, specifically or particularly focused on Trillion and Nightingale. The Trillion pipeline it is growing very strongly, and the TD partnership that we both mentioned that will enhance that. The partnership in the Caribbean is just going from strength to strength almost on a weekly basis, and we've just hired Chris Dunning-Walton to head up our consulting practice. So Chris has been in cybersecurity for 20 years. So he ran a headhunting business. He has a very, very good network with those household name clients, which are the clients we now want to keep breaking into. And we're now starting to have good conversations with some of those companies. They have big budgets. They tend to spend it with people they know and trust. And once you get in, you tend to find you're quite sticky. So it really feels like we're at a bit of a tipping point in terms of breaking through that sort of 5 million revenue barrier, and accelerating as we bring on the bigger clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really strong foundation from the sound of things to deliver that profitability towards the end of this year. And congratulations on a very strong set of numbers. Thank you so much for speaking to me, Tom, and thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.